All right, folks. One day away from the start of a tournament. Well, kind of, sort of. The NBA, a lot of movement in the for the playoff spots. We got our buddy Evan Altman from Cubs Insider to talk preview the Cubs season as they're in Tokyo, gearing up for a two-gamer against the defending champion Dodgers. And of course, old school TV Monday and a whole lot more. This special St. Patrick's Day edition of Second City Sports, which starts right now.
Welcome to the Monday Extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I am City Brian. You better know that it's me. You can follow your Shirley on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You find my Kitty McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kitty McGee on the IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASCS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. That's Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance. Your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're not unapologetically funny, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you fools to be a boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to the replay game that's catching us on the replay on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. And shout out to the live game that's checking us live right now, live and in living color. Don't you ever forget our motto, whether we talk about sports, music, entertainment, and things that's such. We will always provide.
What about you with some of the best here on Second City Sports? Of course, happy St. Patrick's Day, who always celebrates that. We forgot to wear a green today, Sid. Sorry about that, folks.
I know.
I know.
Very late to the party.
Oh yeah, but look, we'll party. We'll have the party up here. We're always the party going here on Second City Sports. Of course, we got our buddy Evan Altman from Real Cubs, as the Cubs are already in Tokyo to gear for a special two-gamer against the World Series champ Dodgers to kick off the season coming up. That should be a fun matchup. And also, of course, as I said in the teaser, of course, we got our brackets. We'll do our Final Fours. Again, don't take them at face value. We'll do a little bit of the women's tournament too. Rory wins over at the Players Championship. A Monday finish over at TVC Sawgrass. And, of course, a special edition of Old School TV Monday. But first, Sid, I guess, where do you want to go first? Because, like I said, we kind of do a kind of a hodgepodge. Where you want to go first now?
I know we'll speak more about this when we open up our show on Friday. But first, for those of you that checked out our show last night with our March Madness special for 2025 for the men's Division I NCAA selection tournament special, thank you very much. For those who haven't, go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube and check out our special Sunday selection show that we did last night. It was a very good show in my opinion. But LaKeena, opening day in baseball gets his own day. The NBA opening night used to be special. Now it's only one night. It's divided into 2 nights now. Opening night for hockey. I like hockey, but let's be honest, just because of Gary Bettman, no one cares about opening night in hockey outside of the grand folks of the hockey world. And of course, the NFL has expanded their opening day through a whole weekend now. So I wanted to ask you, what's your number one opening day of the weekend? Since we're coming up I know the last four in starts Tuesday and Wednesday, but you know as well as I do, I'm going old school style. The real tournament starts on Thursday as far as men's college basketball is concerned. But uh, going through March Madness and all the four pro major sports in the United States, what's the best opening day for you? What's your most anticipated opening day out of those five sports events that I mentioned?
Well, I think, of course, there's nothing to beat opening day in baseball, right? You got we got about like a week and a half before that starts. So it's going to be interesting to see like how, different, ways of how do you want to go about it. Going to the ballpark, all the pomp and circumstance and such. They're actually going to be, the Cubs and the Dodgers are actually going to be opening a Tokyo series, of course, out in Japan, starting tomorrow. And it's going to be kind of interesting to see all that. But we'll talk about the Evan Altman in a minute here. But it's sort of like, I think baseball. I think the tournament, there's nothing like it, especially now you got the first four and such out there in Dayton, and it's going to be interesting to see. Like you featuring some teams that are coming in for the first time. Then you got other teams that just barely got in. There's a lot of discussion of why North Carolina, how the heck did they get in? But that's going to be another situation for another time. Same thing over at you probably say Xavier, the winner of that game between Texas Xavier, that'll be on Wednesday. They'll face Illinois coming up on Friday in Milwaukee. So, I think those are kind of like there's nothing else like it. There's people are like less productive. That's what they say when the team, during those first couple of days of the tournament and such. I mean, there's nothing like that. I mean, the NFL, I think you can kind of tell that they spend like 4 or 5 days. So you got a Thursday game, you got a Saturday game, then you got a full a Sunday game. So they kind of like taking over on that. Hockey, it's sort of like there really isn't much with the hockey with the opening night and whatever. I mean, yeah, you can probably whoever the defending champion is for that year, they always have the ring ceremonies and such. So it's kind of interesting to see like, all sort of kind of like it all serve its own purpose, as they say. So
Me personally, my number one opening day is baseball because especially living in the Midwest here in Chicago, you know that warm weather's around the corner. Springtime is around. It depends on what day it is here in Chicago. We experienced all four seasons of weather over this past weekend here in Chicago.
oh
So
yeah.
when opening day for baseball, you know that warm weather's all the way. Whether your team is predicted to win or not, it's just that feeling that you can get out to the ballpark, enjoy some sunshine, make some new friends, hang out with old friends, and enjoy a good ball game. So, number one for me is opening day in Major League Baseball. Number two is the first day of March Madness. Yes, that Thursday, not the playing game foolishness that we've seen over the last decade or so, but the first Thursday of the NCAA tournament. You got games going on starting at 11 o'clock in the morning, goes on till sometimes at midnight, both
Mm-hmm.
Thursday and Friday. The Saturday and Sunday games are around the 32, but you still have games spread out throughout the day. It starts at noon and it goes until the early, sometimes into the late evenings on the first weekend of the tournament. So that's my number two uh, anticipated opening day is the men's March Madness tournament. Number three is football. Yes, you get that Thursday night game, and now it looks like the Friday night game overseas is going to have a mainstay. Now, of course, the first full Sunday of the NFL is my favorite opening day as far as football is concerned. So that ranks number three, of course. Basketball, how they bastardized it over the years. I get it. You want to get the defending champions there one night, and then everybody else starts the next night. Okay, I get it, but the NBA has bastardized that over the years, and of course, the last is hockey because they still continue to shoot themselves in their own foot. So for me, it's baseball, opening day of March Madness, football, NBA, and then hockey.
Yeah, I could probably see that in that order. So, listen, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. What's your favorite? Well, y'all out there, what's your favorite like opening, day, weekend, what or night or whatever. So, keep us in the comments. We'll read them for you throughout the show. But yeah, I think it's definitely gonna be one of those things where it's a sort of like every sir every opener serves its purpose. Of course, you got the opening day in baseball. Of course, you're gonna have this year. You're gonna have the first next year. You're gonna be in Asia. Of course, in this case, in Tokyo with the Cubs and the Dodgers coming up tomorrow, or late tonight. However you live, across the country. It's like 5:10 here in Chicago. That's when the first pitch is. But and then of course you've got like the NFL, how they've kind of like monopolized all that, and college football, of course, week 0. That's another sort of thing. That's becoming a kind of an event. So with some top 10 matchups and such. So yeah, I think I think everyone has a purpose. So I think for me, I think this sort of like depends on what your favorite sport is.
I know the opening weekend of college football, you mentioned week 0 is special for you. Like the last couple years, obviously, us covering college sports on this show, I had to watch at least one game. Shout out Deion Sanders in Colorado. But I will say this about college football. And the NFL has stepped aside with this around a decade ago, probably almost closer to 2 decades now. Labor Day weekend belongs to college football. And remember, the NFL used to open up on Labor Day weekend until, like I said, almost closer to 2 decades ago. So I will give college football credit for that. They have expanded. Sometimes you have some games on a Tuesday leading up to that week, others on a Friday. Of course, the full slate on Saturday, one on Sunday. Of course, you have the primetime game also on that Monday night on Labor Day. So I will give college football credit for that and taking advantage of casual fans like yours. Surely you want to check out a game or two that a team that you're not familiar with. You can check them out on that weekend and spread it out for you so you can watch a couple of games. So it's not jam-packed all at once on the holiday weekend.
It's always fun and how they do that. So we'll take a really quick break. Of course, we'll talk some NBA and Bulls as the Mavs, as if things weren't already bad enough for the Mavs. And of course, the Bulls. Well, they actually lost over the weekend, so yay. All that and more coming up next with LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. NBA talk coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on this Monday extravaganza. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in 11 color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow McGee McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
If you have any questions or comments for us as we dive into some Chicago Bulls talking the NBA at large, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Off to the NBA we go from this weekend, and let's say it was a pretty eventful weekend in the NBA.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah. Well, we'll start with the Bulls. I mean, the Bulls, it was a tough one to Houston. In Houston, 117-114. Kobe White had 23 points in the losing effort there. Jalen Green had 28. The Bulls were actually leading for a little bit for a lot of that game. Of course, Houston came Rory back, ended up holding on to win. So there was a perfect tank win, I guess, if you want to call it that, for the Bulls. I mean, they held on, with one of the top teams in the West for a little bit, and of course they ended up losing in the end. So that's okay, I guess. I mean, look, I'm sure it made certain people happy that they lost. So okay.
Here's the thing about the Bulls. We all can talk about their discrepancy and talent up and down the roster, but excuse me, their absence of Josh Giddey is really apparent now. We were talking about on the show the last couple of weeks that he's really been coming on as of late, becoming an all-around player at the point guard position that this Bulls team can use going into the future. But you mentioned about Kobe White, who's been really dealing with injuries all year long. He was the only consistent player on offense for the Chicago Bulls with 23. Nikolai Vucevic still trying to get his timing back, 15.7 rebounds. You love what you see from him. Also to Kevin Huerter, who was acquired in that Zach LaVine trade right before the All-Star break. He struggled with only 9 points and 1 of 6 shooting from downtown. So he's trying to see if he can make his mark on his team. Of course, I'm going to focus on the young guys like Julian Phillips and my guy Jalen Smith. Dylan Terry, 11 points. Looks like he's starting to get the message of you got to be productive or else you're not going to be on this team. So I like what I saw from him on Saturday. Of course, my guy Jalen Smith, 4.6 rebounds. I know his score has been down a little bit, but he still brings that energy and an effort off the bench that you need to contribute to a good team. So I kind of like what I'm seeing from the young guys. Julian Phillips, I should say, 8 points. So he looks like he's starting to get this message now. Now with the injuries, those two are definitely going to get more playing time. So the Bulls, they're stuck in that 10th spot. Could they move up to 9th? The Miami Heat are starting to struggle here. We'll get into that in just a minute. But the Bulls, on the happenstance, they're going to be a play-in team at worst, and they don't have to do too much, LaKeena. So, where you develop the young guys and you win a couple of games here and there, you're going to be a play-in team. If you're a Bulls fan, are you really happy? I think the fan base is, to be fair about it, half and half. Okay, you made the play-in, but what's the future really going to look like for this team? And this is what happens when you're stuck in NBA hell.
And no, they're only 3 games back as we're recording. It's only 3 games back of Orlando, so they've been up and down. I know they won on Saturday, but yeah, that's really, yeah, this is sort of the thing where what you get when you're kind of like stuck in neutral. You don't know what you're gonna do. So yeah, you're kind of like stuck there. I mean, they could get as high as an 8 seed, maybe. Perhaps I know Orlando won. We'll talk about that game against Cleveland in a second. I know they pulled out that upset yesterday, but I think the Bulls are sort of like, look, you gotta take what you get with the Bulls squad at this point. I mean, they play Utah. They start off they continue their West Coast trip at Utah tomorrow, and then they go to Sacramento. Of course, they face Zach and DeMar, so that should be an interesting matchup coming up.
You want to make a prediction on that game? How many points does Zach LaVine scores?
What's the over under? I guess I think that's really kind of like the thing here, but
that's a good one. That's a good
Yeah.
one.
So
I'll say he'll score 38.
yeah, it'll probably go like maybe 30, I think 30 or 35, I feel like. So I'm kind of just see what they do in these next couple of games on the road out west. So we'll see. It's going to be interesting there. Now going to the rest of the weekend in the NBA, we'll start with the Lakers as Luka had 33 points as the Lakers held off the Suns. And I think what's interesting here in this game is that with the Suns, especially, we'll get to Dallas in a minute and all the weirdness that's going on down there. But yeah, I think they're doing everything they can. Look, they're still hanging on to the top 3 spot in the West. Luka had 33, Austin Reeves had 28, Jackson Hayes had 19. Look, I think those guys got to step up, help Luka out now that LeBron's going to be gone for a week.
Yeah, and hopefully, if you're LeBron James, you'll return hopefully by this time next week. But we'll see about that. As you mentioned on our last couple of shows, the role players going to have to step up and expand their roles to help out Luka Doncic. And I'm sure part of that was fatigue with them going through that East Coast road trip last week. But you could tell those players that you mentioned got some home cooking, being comfortable playing on their home court. Jackson Hayes, remember, he missed the last couple of games. So him returning really gives a boost to their Lakers squad, especially on that front line. So he's going to be dependent on to not only contribute offensively, but really to bring that defense, because outside of him, the Lakers have nothing in the interior in terms of defense. So Jackson Hayes must step up his play. You mentioned Austin Reeves. He kind of struggled last year. He's been up and down this year. It was nice to see him have a great game yesterday. So Luka Doncic, what you're going to give for him, but it's the role players that got to step up and be more consistent.
Yep. So, yeah, we'll see if they can keep up that consistency. OKC continues to just impress. This is an ESPN game. I watched a little bit of the game after all the college hoops and, happenstance and stuff that was over. That she had 31 points, 21 for Giannis, and a losing effort there. But just too much Thunder. I know some people are kind of like skeptical about the Thunder. Again, I think that win against Boston should definitely help their confidence, if nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I think, look, they're – Thunder for me hasn't really been battle tested yet. I think this is really gonna look. I'm not worried about the look. They're gonna get the number 1 seed. They're gonna hang on to that 1 seed in the West. But to me, it's really gonna depend on what they do in the playoffs. I mean, the lack of experience. That's kind of what killed them last year. And I'm looking forward to see now they got a season under their belt. If these guys can help out SGA, because guys like Chet Holmgren, excuse me, and and Isaiah Hardenstein and Kendrick Williams and all those guys got to step up. Isaiah Joe, who had 19 off the bench last night in that win against the Bucks, and I think those guys got to step up. And I think they know that it's going to be a gauntlet in that Western Conference, so hopefully they'll be ready.
And you mentioned there's going to be a target on their back. I remember we talked about this during the first month of the season. I know Kenny Smith answered the question on Inside the NBA back early in the season. The critics were asking about Oklahoma City Thunder. Were they for real this year? Was last year a fluke? Last year was not a fluke. Last year was not a fluke. And what OKC is doing this year is that they're a better team than they were a year ago. And like you said, the number one question going into the playoffs is, did this group learn from their experience from last year when they lost to the eventual Western Conference champion Dallas Mavericks last year? So that's going to be the number one question. You mentioned all those role players that it's going to help out Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who, in my opinion, is the MVP ahead of Jokic. So the role players must take the game to another level come playoff time. So it's going to be interesting how head coach Mark Dadrigan plays this. Will he start resting guys during the last couple of weeks of the regular season, or will he continue to push the pedal to the metal? Not like Coach Tibbs in New York, but this team will be on the intensity high from now until the playoffs, since they basically have everything wrapped up.
Sorry for my disappearing act there, folks. So that wasn't SGA shooting a 3-pointer over me. That was sort of what I could have pulled off there. The Clippers, no trouble with the Hornets. Harden had 31 points there. One of the hottest teams in the NBA is in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. They've now won 8 in a row, beating Utah last night. 41 points for Anthony Edwards, and they're right there to think of it in that. Well, they're tied now with the Warriors. We'll talk about them in a second, because they're also on a roll. But we're finally starting to see the team that we saw that made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals last year.
Yeah, and they're getting some healthy guys back, like Julius Randle and a couple other players, Naz Reid as well. Anthony Edwards. The question is who's going to help him out whenever he struggles scoring. So that's going to be the number one question for the Timberwolves. In can they commit themselves to playing on the defensive end as a team? Now, given the struggles of Dallas and given the struggles until last night with the Los Angeles Clippers, the Minnesota Timberwolves could move up a spot or two. Now, can they avoid the play-in tournament? I think they still have a long way to go with that, but them playing consistent basketball, especially at this time of the year as we head down towards the last few weeks of the regular season, it could definitely help them out. But looks like it's finally starting to see what this Minnesota Timberwolves team is shaping up to be.
Portland held off Toronto. Brooklyn beat Atlanta. Cam Johnson had 28 points there. Orlando with the upset win over Cleveland, snapping their 14-game winning streak there. I'm talking about Cleveland's 14-game winning streak. Banchero had 28. And I think, look, we talked about this on Friday with Cleveland. I mean, they've been on they're very streaky. They went like a 10-game, like an 18-game winning streak earlier this season. Then they had a 13-game winning streak, and now this they got way up to 14. And of course, with their loss to Orlando. But you wonder, will all this sort of will wear this team out in the end? I mean, it could be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing too.
Yeah, just like I mentioned with Coach Martin Dackino of Oklahoma City, we'll see how new head coach Cleveland's new head coach Kenny Atkinson decides how he plays this. Well, he started to rest guys toward the end of the regular season. Well, he started scaling minutes back. Let's be honest here, Cleveland's not going to win 70 games, so that you could throw that out the window. But how will the players' minutes be managed by Kenny Atkinson? Because all those guys we mentioned last year, they were injured, including Donovan Mitchell, Evan Mobley, who's having a bounce back year, Jarrett Allen too, who's having a bounce back year. How can you manage those guys' minutes as we head down the home stretch? Because Boston, as we said a couple weeks ago, they really don't need the number one seed. They'll probably end up finishing in number 2 behind Cleveland. But should Boston and Cleveland meet in the Eastern Conference Finals, of course, the series will start in Cleveland. But Boston has been a battle-tested team. Them starting the playoff series on the road will not scare them, especially them being a defending champion. So I think Cleveland, they'll finish number 1. Will they start resting guys or scaling back minutes? I think that'll be the number one question. The number one concern is, like you said, LaKeena, keeping them motivated without wearing them down as we head towards the end of the regular season.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown with you, talking some NBA here right now to finish up the first hour. Philadelphia upset Dallas 130-125. Quentin Grimes had 28 points. That's ties a career high for him. It hasn't been a good last couple of days for Dallas. We'll talk about that in a second here. Now, going into Saturday's games, probably one of the bigger upsets this weekend was Washington coming back and beating Denver. Alex Sarr had 34 points, which has career high for him. And I mean, I know, yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm just like Denver. I think, look, I don't listen to Denver sports radio like I should, but I'm just like, look, Sarr's been around for he's a rookie for Washington. I remember he was all Pac-12 down there in Washington, but it was just like, really, like Denver. Look, I think it happens. Look, even the Bulls had weird losses, here and there. Those Bulls teams, Shaq and Kobe had some weird losses too. So it happens. But yeah, this is definitely one of the strangest ones. I feel like.
Honestly, if you're a Nuggets fan, you're not happy, but it may cost you a first round. I think they're number 3 right now in the West. I know they took the Lakers for their 3rd spot, but if it may cost them a first round home court advantage, maybe. But outside of that, I'm not too worried. We'll see how quickly they can bounce back from this loss. I think that's going to be the real concern here. How well can they bounce back after this embarrassing losses, especially at home to a lesser team? So maybe they got caught with definitely got caught with their pants down. But were they going through the motions, or like you said, Washington is one of those teams that just had one of those nights? It happens.
Yeah. So I don't know if Denver fans should be freaking out, but I know some of them are. So we'll see. They can kind of keep it up here. Now, Golden State held off the Knicks 97-94. Steph Curry had 28 points there for the Warriors. They've now have won 7 in a row. I think they've only lost 2 games since the Jimmy Butler trade. And Moses Moody had 18 points. Butler only had 11. But it's sort of one of those. It's gonna be interesting to see with the Warriors because they're, like I said, they're tied with Minnesota, but Warriors got the tiebreaker, so now they're at the 6th spot right now. So it's gonna be interesting to see, like, if this sort of, it could come down to probably maybe, those last like couple of games of the season. So I'm gonna be interested to see what happens with them between these two teams. I think that's gonna be the key here. Like they play Denver tonight. I'm talking about the Warriors do. So it could come down to scheduling and such. But yeah, these last couple weeks are gonna be pretty interesting because they don't play Minnesota. They're done playing Minnesota. So it's really gonna come down to those last few games.
Yeah, I'll keep saying this as long as the Warriors are playing well between now and the end of the regular season. As long as the Warriors stay out of the play-in tournament, whether they end up at number 6 or number 5, I don't think they'll end up at number 4, even though it's not that far out of reach. But if the Warriors end up 5th or 6th, if you're Memphis, definitely Houston, the Lakers, or Denver, I do not want to play the Warriors in the first round, assuming that they're healthy at the end of the year.
No, like I said, it's all going to come down to matchups. So they got a pretty tough schedule for the most part. Like I said, they play Denver. I think they play the Lakers. Yeah, they play both the Lakers and the Clippers, and I think they play Denver twice, not just tonight, but they play in a couple of weeks as well. And Houston and Phoenix. So yeah, they've got a pretty even schedule for the most part. But yeah, it's really gonna come down to, like, can Steph stay consistent with the shooting? Jimmy Butler and such, guys like Moody are gonna have to step up too for the Warriors and help them out. So it's all gonna come down to that for the Warriors to see if they can get that 6th spot, or know they have to play the play-in. So that's gonna be interesting there. San Antonio held off the Pelicans. The Bucks beat Indiana, a little bit of an upset there, 34 points for Giannis. The Grizzlies beat the Heat. I mean, gosh, how far the Heat had fallen. My goodness.
Yeah.
OKC beat Detroit. They had a pretty busy weekend. The Thunder did. The Celtics held off Brooklyn. These are Saturday's games, so I'm finishing up here. And going into Friday's matchups, you got the Suns beating the Kings. Toronto beat Utah. The Lakers lose a tough one to Denver. That might have been the reason. Yeah, so there was no Luka. So, but look, I guess you could say that this was the you don't want to say moral victories, but the fact that they came, they only lost by 5 with no LeBron and Luka. Of course, Luka took the game off there. Yeah, I guess if the Lakers are gotta be feeling pretty good, I guess.
Yeah, the role players did their thing. Austin Reeves led the way there. Rui Hachimura and some of the other role players we mentioned earlier. So Denver, they weren't expecting. I'm sure they weren't expecting the Lakers to give them a fight, and I'm sure they expected them to roll over. But the Lakers didn't roll over. Denver had the better talent. They executed down the stretch, and that's the reason why they won that game. So, but give the Lakers role players credit. They did put up a good fight. They just came up short at the end.
Would have been funny though. They did put off the upset. I'm sure Denver fans would have been
right.
They really would have pulled their hairs out if they lost to Lakers, with no LeBron or Luka. So go figure with that one. The Hornets beat the Spurs. If you took the over in that one, you had a nice little start to your weekend in that game. 145-134. Good grief. Minnesota, no trouble with Orlando. Cleveland, they beat Memphis. Dallas just got hammered by Houston. The Clippers and the Hawks. I mean, the Clippers probably been playing pretty well lately. Indiana beat Philly, and Boston beat Miami, and that was your schedule and your scores from the weekend.
Yeah, you mentioned with the struggles of the Miami Heat, and of course they struggled ever since the Jimmy Butler trade a month ago now. Eric Spoelstra, their head coach, I know he's trying to keep the team ahead above water. They're still in the play-in tournament mix around. They got to hold off Atlanta, Orlando, yes, in Chicago as well. So things will get easier for the Miami Heat there. But I want to go back to the Dallas Mavericks. And yesterday, of course, we mentioned on Friday that game with Philadelphia was supposed to be on ABC, but ABC flexed out that game and said they broadcasted the Orlando Cleveland game, which turned out to be a better game, obviously. But the Dallas Mavericks had two players collide on the baseline yesterday. And we talked about this before we went on live. And I don't know what the rules are in the NBA outside of you got to have a mandatory of 8 players dressed, but Dallas has so many guys hurt. I don't know how many players they can bring up from their G League squad, but they may have to forfeit their next game. And I don't think we ever had that situation occur in the NBA. If you know something of that nature, please let us know. But I don't remember ever having a situation like that before. Now we have in game situation that you have like 2 or 3 players foul out and you had to play with 5 guys, but that's a whole different situation. But in terms of injuries, I've never seen an NBA team have to forfeit that next game. That's a whole lot of money lost there.
Well, and Jaden Hardy and of course Anthony Davis, this is according to Mass PR. They've been assigned to the Texas Legends of the G League, so I guess those guys are going to be on their way back, and they're definitely going to need reinforcements there because they've been in free fall the last few weeks. I talk about Dallas, so I think that's going to be the thing here, and you're in a tough spot if you're Jason Kidd. I mean, you've lost 3 in a row. Now the only good thing is that the Suns can't stay consistent, so that's been. And look, I'm not saying they could catch up, but Portland might actually, be knocking on the door a little bit for that last play-in spot. So, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with that bottom part of that Western Conference. I mean, Sacramento, they've been in free for all too. They've lost 4 in a row. So it's gonna be interesting to see like who can kind of get out of that part of that bottom part from like 9 through 12. Or I guess you want to put San Antonio, but I think they're kind of tanking a little bit if San Antonio. But that's really gonna be the thing here for me is that who amongst that last 4 that near like between the 9th and the 12 spots. I mean that's gonna be kind of like where the money shot is.
Yeah, remember I said the last week on this show, the next couple weeks for the Dallas Mavericks was going to be key. If they're going to have a long losing string, you mentioned they're currently on a 3-game losing string. If Anthony Davis is ready to return, would you bring him back? As of right now, my answer is no.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem you don't want to risk him getting hurt again because he'll get a good couple weeks from him and then he'll get hurt again. So there really is. I don't think you really gain anything by playing him at this point, especially with Kyrie done for the year with the ACL. So I think your best bet if you're Dallas, you might want to just go ahead and just tank it, and let Phoenix and Portland battle it out for those for that last spot, and that might be your best bet if you want to look. Hey, Nico Harris, if you want to protect your future, I'm talking about the GM of the Mavs. If you want to protect your future, your job security, you might have to tank.
Yeah, and see if they can get Cooper Flag, but we'll see what happens with that. You're listening to Second City Sports on Chicago City. LaKeena here with you, wrapping up our number 1 of our Monday extravaganza. We'll dive into the NBA schedule coming up here starting with tonight's games. ESPN will have a special Monday doubleheader due to their college basketball coverage. I'm talking about ESPN. Their opening game tonight will feature the struggling Miami Heat facing the New York Knicks at MSG. That's at 6:30. Other games are on the schedule for tonight: Philadelphia at Houston, Indiana at Minnesota. Detroit Pistons will take on the New Orleans Pelicans down the Big Easy. The Bulls will continue their West Coast road trip at Utah. Denver and Golden State, that's the second game of the ESPN Monday night doubleheader. That's at 9 o'clock. The Raptors and the Suns, Memphis at Sacramento, and Washington will continue their West Coast road trip at Portland. And the Spurs and the Lakers will do battle tonight from the stadium formerly known as Staples Center.
Tuesday, tomorrow's matchups. You got Atlanta and Charlotte. And you've got a doubleheader on NBA TV. The first one will be Brooklyn and Boston. That should be a fun one there. No, I'm not repeating myself. They did play a couple of days ago. I'm not repeating myself. They play each other again tomorrow. Milwaukee and Golden State. That's the second game of the NBA TV doubleheader. And trigger word here. I wish this was televised, but be off on it's a place to watch it. You got Cleveland and the Clippers. We got Spider Donovan Mitchell against James Harden. That should be interesting.
All right, your schedule for Wednesday looks like this: Dallas at Indiana, Houston at Orlando, Detroit at Miami, New Orleans at Minnesota. The first game of that ESPN Wednesday night doubleheader will be the Detroit Pistons at the Miami Heat. That should be a good one there, especially for that young Pistons squad. Other games to follow on Wednesday: Philadelphia at OKC, the New York Knicks at the San Antonio Spurs on their West Coast road trip. Talking about New York. Washington will continue their West Coast swing at Utah. The second game of that Wednesday night doubleheader on ESPN will feature Denver at the Lakers at 9 o'clock. The Bulls will continue their West Coast road trip. They'll visit Phoenix. Memphis will visit Portland, and Cleveland will visit Sacramento.
All right, to cap off the most part of this week, Thursday you got the kickoff of the tournament. But if you're more of an NBA person, you got New York and Charlotte. Of course, with TNT showing the early rounds of this NBA tournament, these games will be on NBA TV. The first game of that Thursday doubleheader, you got Brooklyn and Indiana at 6:00. Then you've got Toronto and Golden State. And the second game of the NBA TV doubleheader, you got the Bulls and Sacramento. Is probably going to be blacked out in Chicago. Just saying. And just a warning for all you Chicago viewers out there. And Milwaukee and the Lakers at 9:30. You'll probably get Chicago. You guys will probably get that game instead of the Bulls and Sacramento. And that's just scheduled for this week in the NBA.
Stay tuned for more sports and more fun. The Second City Sports and Monday Extravaganza continues with our good friend, Mr. Evan Altman of CubsInsider.com, previewing the 2025 Chicago Cubs and more. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know, though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of the Monday Extravaganza edition of Second City Sports. You're locked in, loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. If you want to follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG, you can do so at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
As we preview the 2025 Chicago Cubs and the MLB season coming up here, if you have any questions or comments regarding that subject, especially with our next guest, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
Let's get right to it. I think we're about 16 hours, give or take, for first pitch in that Tokyo series for the Cubs and the Dodgers. And well, let's talk about the Cubs and more right now with our good buddy from CubsInsiders.com. He's the one, the only, the super cool Mr. Evan Altman. Evan,
Yay!
Yay!
Doing well. Like you said, we're 16 hours from the start of baseball season, so it'll be nice to have some real games, even if everybody's got to wake up a little earlier than usual to watch them.
Yeah, 5:10 is going to be first pitch, so it's going to be interesting to see the Brady. Because I think the first game is going to be on the big Fox network, and the second game is going to be on FS1. So, if you have YouTube TV, you'll get a chance to watch it. You'll actually get a chance to watch them. So that's really, really cool. So, what is the ceiling for this Cubs squad, Evan? Because a lot of the synopsis, I guess you can say that they got them winning 90 and 93. Do you think they win that much? And you think, will they win the NL Central?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Central definitely, because you look around at the other teams in the division, and none of them really did much. I mean, the biggest move probably among the other four teams in the Central was the Reds hiring Tito Francona as their manager. Outside of that, there weren't a lot of big moves. You know, the Cardinals hardly did anything. I think the Pirates continue to be very, as much as people want to say the Cubs ownership is cheap, like they've got nothing on Pirates and Bob Nutting out there. So they're going to rely on the youth that they've had with Paul Skeens and some of the other guys. But I think the issue for the Cubs is not so much what they're going to do in the division. And I do think they can get to 90 wins. I mean, they had 83 last year, and that's with a bunch of blown saves. They could have gotten to 90. I don't want to say easily, but they probably should have won at least that many last year. So I don't think that's very difficult. The problem then lies in all these other teams. We know they're going to face the Dodgers. We know that's a juggernaut. The Braves have been very good. They're totally loaded, and they're getting back Ronald Acuna Jr. and Spencer Strider from injuries. The Diamondbacks remain very good out in the West. The Phillies are still good. The Mets signed Juan Soto and are certainly willing to spend all the money that it takes. So there are a lot of very good teams in the National League. And so I think that's where you really get into the problem of getting into the playoffs is one thing. Then you've got to fight your way through a gauntlet. So the ceiling for them is I think very high. It's just a question of, I still believe they need maybe one more big power arm in that rotation to really go up against the big boys once you get to the postseason.
Before I get to my question, Evan, first of all, nice hat, by the way. It takes me back to my childhood living in Chicago, watching that. I try to watch it. Tried to watch it every week. Who was your favorite host, Fat Five Freddy or the duo of Ed Lover and Dr. Dre?
I'm an Ed Lover and Dr. Dre guy. That was
okay.
when I was when I was coming up with it. That's what I saw. And of course, I got this shirt. This is like my favorite. I just got this new shirt. I don't know if anybody. I'll move to the side. So it's the St. Ides. I got the Crooked Eye shirt with the little boombox in the background. Not that I could really be drinking that at the time. My wife didn't really understand it, but I was like, hey, when I was in college, you can get a 40 ounce for really, really cheap. Yes, and that was the easy way to do it. But anyway, no, I'm definitely Dr. Dre and Ed Lover all the way. Although when I first, I couldn't wrap my head around how is there, this is Dr. Dre. And then there's also the other Dr. Dre.
Yes.
So it took me, I was like, this is kind of a weird, we can't have two. What's going on? But one for the East Coast, one for the West. So yeah, that was, I love it. When I saw this hat, I had to get it. And I probably have gotten more compliments on this hat than any other one I've ever worn. So I was like, wear it because it makes me feel good.
So that's good stuff. Great stuff, I should say. Great stuff. Back to the Cubs pitch. Of course, Shota Imanaga had a very good rookie year last year. I was at the game that he shut down the St. Louis Cardinals early last year, and I told a couple of Cub friends of mine that you better appreciate him now because if he ever hit the open market, he'll be snatched up just like that. Talk to us about what you expect from him in year two, because those teams that internationally you just mentioned, they're going to see him again for the second and the third time. He wasn't really touched up as much last year, but going into year two, everybody is going to expect a whole lot from him. Talk to us what you expect from Mr. Imanaga year number two.
Yeah, good timing on this because I literally before I got on here, I just published a little piece, kind of about that a little bit, and just because he had some jokes. He's going to start that opening day, and he's got to face Shohei Ohtani right out of the gate, right? So that's not an easy one. What I'm really interested to see, because what we saw from him, so he had a varied repertoire, more varied repertoire when he was pitching in Japan, and I know the Cubs worked with him a lot on working up in the zone. He's got a high ride fastball, right? A lot more carry on it than the average MLB fastball. So it actually, because he's kind of a shorter guy, his fastball actually starts out lower and ends up higher than most fastballs in the league, which is a really unique feature that he's got. But the Cubs had to get him to throw up in the zone a lot more, right? And he did that fairly successfully, and that plays really well off of his splitter. And it's not a problem, but those two pitches made up 80% of his repertoire. So if you look at the sinker, the curve, the sweeper, and the change, that's a total of only 20%. He ditched the cutter entirely. What I'm interested in seeing, the curveball didn't play real well, but when it comes to the changeup in particular, whether he's able to use that to neutralize righties a little bit more, whether he does bring back the cutter, I want to see what happens with those other 4 to 5 secondary pitches that he's got, that he can kind of mix that up a little bit, because as you said, it's one thing to face a team that first time to kind of give them that unique look. It's another thing when it's the third time, when it's the fourth time, right? Especially with those divisional opponents who get a real good look at him. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. I don't know how much we're going to see tomorrow, because it's that first outing. It's probably going to be a little bit shorter because he's not fully stretched, but very, very interested to see what he does with those secondaries, if he can kind of help keep everybody off that fastball a little bit more.
Let's talk about the rest of that starting pitching staff, Evan, and because of course Steele had a great year last year. If it not been for that injury, he probably would have been right there for the NL Cy Young. Acid, because I was not very happy that he was left out of that, but I digress. James Taillon had a solid year last year. Much to my surprise. Assad, he was okay, kind of up and down. Boy will probably be that back end guy. So what do you think? How do you think that pitching staff measures up to the rest of the NL?
Yeah, a lot of that's going to depend, right? I mean, there were the reports that they were negotiating with Lance Lynn as well, right? He was very familiar to Chicago fans from his time there on the South Side, and I'm interested in that, not so much because I think it's a good move, but just my kids go to Brownsburg High School here in Indiana, which is where Lance Lynn went, and Tucker Barnhart as well. So kind of an interesting little wrinkle. My son thinks it's cool because, hey, you get an MLB pitcher who went to your high school and then is with the Cubs. That's kind of neat. But my issue there, and with a lot of the rest of the staff, if you look across it, they all throw 91, 92. Like that's so we and there's a point at which you can't look at things like that. You have to just look at results. But when you go over the course of the season, just like we talked about with Imanaga, if you're not really providing much of a wrinkle in there, if all those looks are kind of similar, then I question, how much you're really going to be able to get done, which is why I would love for them. You mentioned Javier Assad, and he hasn't pitched yet this spring because he's got the oblique issue. I think he's better served in a long relief role anyway. He doesn't work very efficiently. I want to see Ben Brown in that rotation. We're talking about a guy who throws 96, 97 with an excellent curveball. So again, we, kind of like Imanaga, where he's got a reduced repertoire. I know he's working on his change up there, but he's a big guy, big arm. That provides just such a different look for a rotation in which literally Taillon led them of all them who are set up there right now as the rotation would go. Taillon is the hardest thrower, and he's at 92.3 miles an hour. So that's the kind of thing, again, when you talk about winning the division, when you talk about being competitive, that's one thing. But when you're going to go in and face a team like the Dodgers, who literally have 3 MVPs in the first 3 spots in their order, I don't know that you can roll out 3 guys who are throwing 91, 92 and expect to beat them over the course of a series. So give me Ben Brown in that last spot and just kind of go from there. Hopefully Cade Horton comes up later in the season. I think if he's healthy, we see him, another flamethrower with great stuff. So the depth is there. I don't know how dynamic they're going to be, though.
Evan Altman from CubsInsider.com is joining us here on the Monday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena hanging out here with you, previewing the 2025 Chicago Cubs. Evan, let's go to Seiya Suzuki. His time in Chicago has been up and down, basically due to injuries for the most part. We've seen some flashes from him at the plate, not so much on the field, but this year he's going to be the Cubs' primary DH. Talk to us about Seiya Suzuki's new role this year, and how much time will you give him to adjust before we start looking at him at a critical eye, being the Cubs' primary designated hitter?
I really like him in that role. And if you look back at last season, they pretty much moved him into that over the last month or so of the year as his defensive miscues sort of piled up. And there were a lot of things it seemed like he was in his own head a little bit much in the field, right? There were some balls that he just whiffed on completely, right? Just not like he's not getting to them. He'd get there and just miss. And that was really unfortunate, but I don't know if this is the case, if it's just a matter of confirmation bias or if it's a small sample or what, but it really seemed like once he was able to focus, he got his mind off the field. He wasn't worried about that anymore. His bat actually picked up a little bit more. And he's really, if you look over the last 2 years combined, he's been their best hitter. Cody Bellinger edged him a little bit 2 years ago. However, a lot of that was because Bellinger got off to more of a hot start. He kind of tailed off. Suzuki, between last year and the year before, best overall hitter they've got. And so I think if you take him in that role, primarily the DH, he'll work in. We've seen him at all three outfield spots so far this spring, so he can move around a little bit, maybe as options dictate, whether that's just giving a guy a day off, whether it's a tough matchup for that person. I really think we see him come out with his best year yet as far as his offensive production. And if that's the case, and they really get what they expect to out of Kyle Tucker as well, and you look at what Pete Crow Armstrong's been doing, and Ian Happ, that foursome, as far as the outfielders and the DH, is going to be really, really strong in the heart of that lineup. So love Suzuki and what he brings. And I think we're going to see the best of him this year.
Let's talk about Mr. PCA, his hair aside, that weird new hairstyle he has. What do you think his steal is? Can you take that next step, perhaps maybe perhaps I don't know if he'll compete for MVP, but at the very least give the Cubs whatever they need to kind of get it ahead in that NL Central.
Yeah, love again what this kid brings, and you look at the last season. Right. And I know not everybody, and certainly I understand this, not everybody's going to put a ton of credence in WAR and what that necessarily means as a statistic, but it's the best single number kind of catch-all stat that we have. And if you look at a guy who got off to a really slow start first half of the season and really only played about 2/3 of the year up at the major league level, despite all that, he still had, I think it was 2.7 WAR, at least according to Fangraph's measure there. And so you figure if he can just put together two strong halves of offense and play the whole season, there's no reason he shouldn't be above 4, 5, even 6 WAR. I really believe this kid's got a lot more power than what maybe people believe. He doesn't need to have power, but if he can get above 15 homers, he's going to be a problem for opposing teams. The defense is there, right? Gold Glove, he's an elite center fielder. We've seen what he can do with his legs once he reaches base. He can be very disruptive. He can get in pitchers' heads. So, yeah, I mean, at the risk of really hyping him, I do believe he's a superstar in waiting. I really think Javi Baez-esque in terms of the kind of player. And when I talk superstar, I'm talking about, and these are rare, right? I mean, the type of guy you're going to go buy a ticket. I'm not a Cubs fan. I am, obviously, but even if you're not and you're visiting Chicago, you're going to go buy a ticket to the game to watch Pete Crow Armstrong. Just like you would have with Javi Baez when he was there and really playing well. So totally think the sky's the limit for this kid.
All right, let's go back to the pitching and focusing on the bullpen. Outside of Julian Merriweather, it's been a complete makeover. Of course, you have new closer Ryan Presley from the Houston Astros. Of course, Porter Hodges in the waiting in that setup role. But talk to us about Keegan Thompson. I know he didn't make the trip. Is he on his last legs? And talk about some of the other guys that they have as well, like Ryan Brazier, Nate Pearson, and Eli Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we'll see, it seems like Thompson is probably going to end up on the outside looking in at this point. It's just he's been very inconsistent. It's tough to carve out a role, especially as they've got some of those veterans coming up. And then, kind of where do you slot in? So that one's kind of tough. But I like what they've done between going out and trading for a guy like Presley, again, who's really now he's in his contract year. He's really looking to not make a name for himself so much, but this is probably his last real shot at a big contract. And so if he can come to Chicago, put up some big saves numbers again, because, he was displaced. He was the closer down in Houston. They signed Josh Hader to a big money deal. Presley gets moved into the setup spot. I think that affected him, right? A lot of these folks, you look at the numbers and you could think, well, he was down. Oh, no, I don't know. I would look at it the opposite way and say a lot of these guys who are closers, we see it all the time. They come into a non-save situation and they're just not quite as sharp because mentally they're dialed a certain way, right? They're just kind of they're strung a certain way, and when you change that, it changes their outcome. But love that possibility there. Like you mentioned, Merriweather, I think when he's on, again, you got a really hard thrower out of the pen. Porter Hodge is a guy who came in seemingly out of nowhere. A lot of folks outside who follow the organization just kind of less than really at a granular level weren't really aware of him. He showed out really nicely. Eli Morgan is a guy, great changeup. So they've, they kind of identified him as someone to bring over. And they've got a few other folks. They've got a lot of depth, I think, coming up through the system. I mentioned Cade Horton. I think he's a possibility to come up and be a part of that bullpen. Same thing they did with Thompson, with Justin Steele, some of those guys, Adbert Alzolay, when he was with the team, as they first came up, were in mostly relief roles. So they could kind of limit their innings and bring them along. But I think the key to this is it's Craig Counsell's second year. He's got, hopefully, these guys are healthy, but he's got guys in more set roles than I think what he, last year he kind of took a while to figure out who fits where. And we saw that in that the bullpen was a mess. I mean, it was a disaster early on, first month or two of the season. And then it really gelled, came into its own. And I think part of that is the pitchers themselves and being healthy. Part of that is the manager and understanding who fits best in what role. So I would expect that to be an actual strength for the whole season this year.
What about Matt Shaw? Let's go back to the offensive side for a second. I think he'll probably get up here at some point, but what do you think? Will we see him sooner than later?
Oh yeah, I think you're talking opening day, third baseman. I think he's up the whole time. I'm super, super high on this kid. Have been since I kind of learned more about him from kind of what he was doing at Maryland, kind of how he came along. I'm a big fan. So he's a huge proponent of motor preferences, which is something that Matt Swope, who's a head coach at the University of Maryland, where Shaw played his college ball, has worked with. And so you see that when you look at him, if you just look at his batting stance, it would be the weirdest thing in the world. I think it's something that kids are going to start to imitate, but he's kind of pigeon-toed looking, but they're actually both toes are kind of pointed back. He's got this big leg kick. But that's all kind of based on the way he moves and what he needs to do to put himself in position to work well. A lot of people question his ability to play third, but he held that spot down at the Premier 12 International Tournament with the U.S. team that was managed by Mike Scioscia, former longtime catcher and Angels manager, who was super impressed by the way Shaw played third. I've been really impressed. Again, limited action so far because he got off to a slow start because he was injured to open the spring, but he looks like he can really pick it over there at third. The arm looks great. I really think this is the kind of kid who can come up and be like the everyday, again, third baseman, batting in the middle of that order somewhere for the next several years. So Cubs fans are going to be really, really impressed.
We're heading down the home stretch with our guy Evan Altman from CubsInsider.com. He's hanging out here with us on the Monday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you. All right, Evan, let's rank the rest of the teams in the division. Of course, you mentioned about Pittsburgh. You're talking about Cubs management being cheap. Pittsburgh's management is cheap too, and we'll get into that later. But you had Milwaukee. I think most baseball consensus says that they'll come down a little bit, especially after losing Trevor Williams. Now he's with the New York Yankees. You had the Cincinnati Reds. They have new manager Terry Francona. Where do you believe the reports are now? They're on Luis Robert Jr. on the south side, and of course, they're the St. Louis Cardinals. They try to get rid of everybody, but they can't right now. But out of those teams, who is the biggest threat to challenge the Cubs for the NL Central? Is it Milwaukee again, or is it Cincinnati?
Yeah, I mean, I hate, like, every year it comes out and you just think, okay, finally the Brewers are done. They're like they're they lost all these, but we see it every year. They get rid of some of their top players, and they just come back and they keep doing better, right? I mean, how do you they got rid of Corbin Burns, Josh Hader had been traded before, Williams was hurt, had a broken back most of the season. So I was like, okay, they're selling everybody off, they're going to stink. And what do? They win the division again. So I can't bet against them. I feel like they're probably just they're a very well run organization. They've got some really good young talent there, and I know they kind of load up on those veterans who just for some reason seem to play their best ball there. So I still put them up there. I think Cincinnati and Pittsburgh are really close. Cincinnati's got Tito Francona again. I think that helps. Pittsburgh has the man who I think right now is the best pitcher in the game in Paul Skeens, and he's only going to get better because we're seeing him add new pitches. So the guy comes out, gets rookie of the year. Probably could have gotten Cy Young if he had been up at the beginning of the season. So anytime you've got some dynamic young pitching talents, that can really carry you quite a bit. At this point, I think St. Louis is probably in last. I mean, just because, as you said, they were trying to get rid of everyone. They certainly don't appear to be adding any talent, and they're not getting any younger. So I look at them as being in the back. So yeah, Cubs and then the Brewers, but that division could be very, very competitive, though, in those kind of the 2 through 4 spots. I think are going to be a toss-up.
Evan, we talked for like over 20 minutes, and we haven't mentioned Kyle Tucker, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Of course, they got him in a trade from Houston, and they're not even talking about an extension right now, but that's a different conversation. So, what do you think, Kyle Tucker? When healthy, he's one of the best right fielders in the game. So, how do you think he contributes to the Cubs?
Yeah, he's that guy who they've kind of lacked for a while. It's what Chris Bryant was when, especially those first 3 years coming up when he just had that incredible run where this guy is going to put up big numbers. He's going to be consistent. He's going to be out there. He plays great defense and right. You can plug him in there in that 2 or 3 spot in the lineup, and he's going to hit home runs, drive in runs, and that alone, right, having kind of that star bat in the middle of your order like that really gives you the opportunity to not to let guys struggle, but not everyone else needs to carry that load. I think he'll be able to take a little bit of that weight off of guys like Dansby Swanson, Ian Happ, who I think at times feel the pressure to perform, who are pressing a little bit because they are the veterans on the team. They've been around. Swanson in particular has got the big money contract, and so you feel that. But again, I think Tucker takes a lot of pressure off some of the other players and really balances this. The lineup in general allows Craig Counsell to put some guys like you could have a guy like Matt Shaw, who again I totally believe in as a dude who could put up 20-25 home runs. He can bat in the bottom half of your order, because of the other talent that you've got. So love what Tucker brings and the balance that he gives both defensively and offensively to this squad.
Sid? Sid, I think he froze on us.
Can you guys hear me?
There you
I was frozen for a minute.
Yeah, there you go.
Last question for me, Evan. Yeah. Okay. Assuming the Cubs leading the division or in the mix of the wild card race at the All-Star break, are you worried about this current Cubs management, in particular Jed Hoyer, making a move for that? Do you think the Cubs will make that big move at the trade deadline come, excuse the expression, hell of high water if they need to, whether it's another starting pitcher or a bet, assuming one of their big guys go down?
Yeah, I mean, I think that seems like, the fact that they kind of avoided that market. I mean, obviously they went after Tucker, but we've seen them consistently avoid going after those big money players in free agency. We heard a lot of their talks, about Dylan Cease in particular. I think that's one. Sandy Alcantara from the Marlins. Again, that dude's been hitting triple digits and seems like he's going to be available. I think it's more a matter of, while I would always advocate for put your best team on the field as early as possible, because you can't really count on, if you don't get those wins early, you don't get to make them up. There's no way to earn extra credit in the second half. But at the same time, if the reports are true that San Diego is asking for just a king's ransom, including Matt Shaw, in order to get Dylan Cease for 1 year, well, that doesn't make any sense. So I think come trade deadline, those costs come down, both actual in terms of payroll and in terms of what kind of prospects or other players you have to give up. So if they're in it, and I firmly believe this, kind of what I said at the outset, the rotation's good enough to get them through the division. I don't think they've got enough firepower to win consistently in the playoffs against some of these teams. So yes, I think they're absolutely going to be in the market for a big, either a star arm or a bat, whatever is most needed for them at that point.
Oh, Evan, this has been so much fun as always. Thank you so much for joining us today. Where people can find all your great work and social media and all that other great stuff.
Yeah, so just check out on X there. I'm at Evan Altman. We got the site CubsInsider.com, or if you want to go through it through the socials, Real Cubs Insider on X and Blue Sky. Search Cubs Insider on Facebook, and you'll find all our stuff there.
All right, thank you, Evan, for joining us today on Second City Sports. Great job as always. Good luck staying up for those 2 games to start the year against the Dodgers, and we'll talk to you as the season goes along. Okay, much continued success.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Evan.
All right, thank you.
All right, I think Evan might take a nap right before those early games. I think I would if it's playing at 5 a.m. to watch those.
Get that coffee brewing.
Exactly, maybe like a really early, like breakfast or something, or maybe even a late night snack, however you want to look at it. So they'll just be interesting there. But we'll take a really quick break. Of course, we're going to do our Final Four. No, we have not forgotten about the men's tournament, and we'll probably talk a little bit of women's tournament as well. They released their bracket not too long after we did our previous special last night. Also, to some local teams, while they're not going to the tournament, they're going to go to some other tournaments. We'll talk about that, and also to Rory wins once again over at TPC Sawgrass at the Players Championship earlier this morning, I should say. Of course, we get closer to Wayne Gretzky and for the goal scoring list and Old School TV Monday and so much more. LaKeena, McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. Hodgepodge Rapid Fire coming up right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
And I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to this Monday extravaganza of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. See LaKeena hanging out here with you. This is our last break of the show for today's show. If you want to follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, in the IG, you can do so at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
As I mentioned, this is our last break of the show for today. So if you have any last-minute questions or comments for us, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid. We still got some time here, but let's do some of our picks. Well, I'll admit I haven't actually started my brackets just yet. So, but
same here.
But yeah, but we can announce. If you guys haven't, you can watch the replay of our Second City Sports Selection Sunday special for March Madness. Of course, you can catch the replay of that and all the shows right there on Sports on Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channel. It's right there for you. And of course, they've done the times and such for some of the games. We'll start. Okay, the first four games. I guess I know Sid said. I know how Sid feels about the first four, but even still, I mean, look, their schools are looking forward to, especially some of the bubble teams. These are in Dayton. Of course, St. Francis and Alabama State. That'll be tomorrow at 5:40 Central Time on True TV, and that'll be followed by 2-11 seed North Carolina and San Diego State, and for the other first four matchup of all those games are on True TV, Mount St. Mary's and American, both 2-16 seeds. And of course, you got on Wednesday, you got the 11 seed Xavier and Texas. That the winner of that will face Illinois and Milwaukee on Friday. So I know a lot of fans will be watching that game very closely.
Yes, speaking of the final lineup, that game will be on Friday night on CBS at around 8:45 p.m. Chicago time. So a little late night action for the final lineup. So we'll have to wait all day for the lineup to play. Of course, we'll give you a preview of that game coming up on our next show on Friday. But those first four games, LaKeena, yeah, you know me, I don't like them, but that's the world that we live in. I think North Carolina will win that game against San Diego State. I think I will take Alabama State in their first game on Tuesday. And, of course, I'll take Mount St. Mary's for the games on Wednesday. I'll take Mount St. Mary's. And I think I will take Texas over Xavier. So I think it'll be Illinois and Texas on Friday in Milwaukee.
I think I'll take Xavier, too, just because they're a senior-league squad. This is their third straight tip. A lot of those guys from that squad are still on that team. So I think for experience-wise, Texas, they're very young. So, again, that's probably the first four. I think those are probably the better of the first four. But, we'll see. Our buddy Spiro Diaz will have the call of these games with Jim Sparmarkle and John Rothstein for True TV. Of course, they released all the times yesterday and the dates. Creighton and Louisville will be the first game up. This will be in Lexington. You got Brian Anderson and Joe Jackson, Elliot Force with the call there. That's 11:15 on CBS. Right after that, 11:40 in Providence, you got Andrew Catalan, Steve Lapis, and Evan Washburn for the High Point Purdue matchup. High Point is becoming like that trendy pick. Some people say that they could pull off the upset, so we'll see. Brad Nessler, Brendan Haywood, former North Carolina State, and Dana Jacobson will have the call of this game at about 12:30, give or take, on TNT. In Denver, it will be Montana and Wisconsin. And in Wichita, you've got SIU, Edwardsville, and number 1 Houston. Tom McCarthy, Deb Nelly, Steve Smith, and AJ Ross had the call of that game at 1 o'clock on TBS. Then after that Creighton Louisville game, you've got the winner of the St. Francis Alabama State game will face Auburn in Lexington, and then you've got Clemson Moniz and after that High Point Purdue matchup in Providence. TNT, of course, the VCU BYU game, that's the intriguing matchup in Denver, and you got Georgia and Gonzaga in that's afternoon slate of games on Thursday.
Yeah, it should be a great slate of games on Thursday. As I mentioned, this is one of the best days of the year for yours truly because you have games going on all day and all night. And same thing with Fridays too. I know Friday's schedule looks heavy as well. So I don't know if you saw this post on Instagram yesterday, LaKeena, but someone I forgot who put it out. But we need red zone for the NCAA tournament, especially for the first weekend. I was like, yeah, we have it for all the other sports. Obviously, the NFL, and of course, you have Major League Baseball. They're sneaky good if you watch their I forgot what it's called for the moment, but they've been doing it for the last couple of years. In Major League Baseball has their own version of red zone, especially on Sunday afternoons, is really great. But we need one for March Madness. I'm surprised we haven't had this come up, especially with this social media and streaming world we're living in right now. So hopefully they could do something like that for next year.
I think I saw someone actually tease Scott Hansen about that. Like they should do like a style like a quad box style version for for March Madness, and he should host it. I think that'd be interesting too. So yeah, I'm surprised no one has thought about that, but maybe they will. Look, we're putting it out there, folks. Some people have been putting the feelers out there, so we'll see. Now, incidentally, our buddy Spirodius will act. Well, he and Jim and John will have to go too far. They're going to be in Cleveland for the games on Friday. So I think like last couple years they've had to go like out west. I think they were in Spokane last year. So at least now they only got to go about 3 hours like southwest from Dayton to Cleveland. Some of the games that they'll have the Vanderbilt St. Mary's. That's going to be on True TV on Friday, and they also have another good one here. They got New Mexico and Marquette. That should be a good one. They'll have that game. So yeah, they got some really good games here coming up in Cleveland. So we'll see what happens there now. Baylor and Mississippi State, that's going to be in Raleigh. That's going to be the first game up in Raleigh on Friday with Eagle, Bill Raftery, and Grant Hill and Tracy Wilson with the call of that matchup. There you got Colorado State and Memphis and Seattle. Lisa Byington, Robbie Hummel, Jalen Rose, and Andy Castle to call that one in Seattle. So, yeah, some interesting matchups there. That will we see some upsets? We always do. So it's going to be interesting to see what of course, McNeese is a trendy pick. There's actually some people that they think that Lisco might be produced. But yeah, High Point, be produced. So I don't know. But yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll see if we'll see some upsets.
And I know another trendy pick. We talked about this last night on our Selection Sunday show. Drake, number 11, Drake out of Missouri Valley over Missouri. That's a trendy pick right now. High Point, a few people may pick them over Purdue because Purdue's been struggling over the last month or so. Those 12-5 matchups are very interesting. You have Michigan State and University of California, San Diego in the South region. In the West region, excuse me, the 12-5 matchup is Memphis and Colorado State. Don't sleep on Colorado State. They're a very good basketball team. Memphis is missing one and starts, even though they play well and won the American Conference Tournament title over UAB yesterday. In the Midwest region, we have Clemson and McNeese. In the East region, the 12-5 matchup, I like this one, Liberty over Oregon.
Yeah, like I said, first 90 for that matchup. So that might be another trendy 12-5er. So like I said, these games will be on all over CBS, your local CBS station, True TV. Look up your True TV, your cable and satellite provider. I know. Look, this is a time of year where a lot of people don't watch True TV that much. Unless you're.
I think mine is 320.
320. Yeah, Peaky Blinders. Unless you watch Peaky Blinders, that show's still on. Of course, TNT and TBS as well. So yeah, those are the four networks. I think. Look, remember back in the days that we had to get stuff whenever the Big Ten game was on. Even though it was like, it ended up being kind of like a laugher and it was boring.
Yep.
You had to kind of wait for it to be a blowout. Nowadays, I like the fact that you get them all available. So I like that.
I'll be honest with you. I wasn't with that idea when CBS and Turner TV did it. I think this is year 15 of that deal with them and Turner. I didn't like that, but as the years went on, I kind of like this idea because, like you said, back in the day, you were forced to get whatever game that was closer to your region. Whether you want to, let's just say you want to see North Carolina versus Purdue, but you got stuck watching Minnesota versus Grand Canyon, and you was pissed because every game was on CBS back then. So you had to go to wherever the local affiliate broadcasted with the team was closest to your market. So But those days are gone. You can choose what you want to watch, and which is great, as we say all the time, especially in this era that we live in. There, people want and need options.
Exciting. Like I said, I haven't done my bracket yet. I know you said you haven't done yours either. I think the only team I have going to the Final Four right now is Duke. I only have Duke coming out of the East, so that's really the only one I got right now. But everything else is sort of like up for grabs, I think. But like I said, I think that West West region that's a pretty good region. I think the Midwest is probably the more murderer's row, I guess, if you will, because you got Houston, you got Gonzaga, McGee, if they beat Clemson, Clemson, even if they beat McGee, that might be interesting there. UCLA and Utah State, they got Tennessee in that region too. I think that's probably the tougher division toughest region, I should say, out of all of them, because look, you got a really solid mix of teams here.
I could argue the West as well. Your top 3 seeds are Florida, St. John's, and Texas Tech. I think you could possibly see a St. John's, Florida regional final.
Yeah, I could see that. Totally see that. Texas Tech might have something to say about that. I mean, look, they've got a nice veteran squad. Maryland, and but then again, Maryland and Grand Canyon. I mean, so people are saying, I know Maryland, they'll see Maryland at 10.5, which I think is a little bit high, but okay. Colorado State. I think I see some place where Colorado State's actually favored over Memphis. I don't know if Penny Hardaway's guys will be happy about that, but but I guess. But yeah, I mean, you could say maybe the South, but again, I mean, if Creighton's not shooting their threes, we saw that against St. John's.
Right.
And if they can get out of that first round against Yale, maybe Marquette and Mexico, whoever wins out of that game, maybe Michigan State. I mean, like I said, they might not be in a good mood after what happened against Wisconsin in the Big Ten semis. So yeah, that you could probably even say the South might be one of those. But I don't see Auburn. Like I said, Auburn might not be in a good mood either. So they might be on a mission too. So like I said, it's really going to depend on the matchups and such.
Yeah, as we said last night, Auburn could, assuming that they beat Creighton or Louisville in the second round, they could have a quote-unquote easy path to the Sweet 16 to the Elite Eight. But looking at the top 3 teams in that South bracket, you have Auburn number 1, Iowa State number 3. Don't forget about, like you said, Michigan State at number 2. Tom Izzo has really had his guys playing well. So you could potentially see an Auburn-Michigan regional final in the South.
So many, like I said, I mean, so many potential matchups here. And like you said, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with like I said, these sort of things where, like I said, we'll see upsets. It's going to be dependent on, who, if Drake, I think Mizzou's favored by -6. I know our buddy Mike Berman, who's from NBC 5 Chicago, who's a big, he's a Mizzou grad. I know he might be chopping his nails a little bit when you saw that Drake matchup, but again, it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I think if they can go far, like I said, Mizzou hasn't been playing very well lately, but we'll see. And then we'll get a Mizzou Texas Tech. That's we will get Mizzou and Texas Tech in that second round. I mean, big 12 vibes from back in the day.
Don't forget our guy, also a friend of the show, Josh Fryman from WGN. He also graduated from Mizzou.
Yes. So yeah, I think he mentioned that last night with our other buddy, other friend of the show, Chris Bowden. No, he was I think he said he was a little bit nervous on game night last night. I think he was a little bit nervous about that Drake matchup. Excuse me. Just a little bit.
Yeah. So as we mentioned, interesting matchups here in the first round. My Final Four, if anyone cares, like I said, write this in pencil. I know this will be our picks before the tournament starts on Thursday, but as of right now, I have, I believe, 2 number ones coming out, 2 of the 4 number 1 seeds going to the Final Four. I have Duke going, and I have, I believe, Houston going as of right now. And then out of the South, I'm taking Michigan State, and out of the West, I'm going with Florida. So that's 3 number 1 seeds for me. It'll probably be down to 2 by Thursday, but as of right now, I got 3 of the 4 number 1 seeds going, and then I got Michigan State as the 2nd seed. So, and that's my picks right now. But as we always say, but until the tournament officially starts on Thursday, I have this cards are subject to change, and I have the right to change my opinion, in which I will do.
I also have 3 number 1s, but I actually have Florida coming out of the I have Florida come out of the West. Like I do come out of the East. I actually have Tennessee coming out of the Midwest. I don't know why. I have this feeling that Tennessee, I think Rick Barnes is going to get over the hump and get to his first Final Four, which you would think with the great career he's had, he hasn't been to a Final Four. Okay, and I guess I'll take Michigan State. That'll make our buddy Ryan Field happy from another friend of the show from ABC 7, New York. He's the main sports anchor there. But yeah, like I said, I mean, it's Michigan State coming out of that, like I said, coming out of that South. So again, subject to change. Like I said, I'll have like 7 or 10 brackets, and they won't have the same one. So what can I say?
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. LaKeena here with you. We have Old School TV Monday coming up. I got a really surprise for you guys coming up as far as that. But LaKeena, you have some news on the hockey front. And dealing with the great one, Wayne Gretzky and Alexander Ovechkin.
Yeah, he scored again yesterday. I'm talking about Ovechkin. He's now eight goals behind Gretzky for the all-time scoring. Goals scoring. On Saturday, I should say. But yeah, he's only like 8 goals back from passing it. They still got like a few weeks left in the season. So, do you think he passes Gretzky for that record?
I think he will, but I hope I'm wrong. I swear to you on my life, I hope I'm wrong, but we may have to wait till next season for that to happen, because you know how hard it is to score goals in the National Hockey League, especially as I know Washington's up there at the top spot in the Eastern Conference. But I know many players have shown Alexander Ovechkin great respect, but you don't see him getting hard checked as much. But I think the pressure, once he gets closer, I think teams are going to start to really trying to rough him up a bit and try to really get him off his spot, get him off his game. So I think he's going to come close to like maybe 5 for 4 at the end of the regular season. Then we'll have to wait all summer until next season starts before he passes that record. I hope he gets it to get it out of the way before the playoffs. I think that's his wish too, but unfortunately, I think we'll have to wait till next season.
Yeah, like I said, the Capitals are at the top in their division, so I'm I don't know. I mean, look, he's up there in 8. I think he, I don't know. I think he wants to kind of get it over with and get it out the way. So again, that way he wants to have a hay over his head for next season. But I don't know. I mean, if you're Ovechkin, you kind of wonder, like, I don't know, what do you do? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what he does, especially gets closer and closer, especially if they clinch everything, because they could clinch the number 1 seed within this next couple of games. So Spencer Carberry, who is the coach for the Capitals, I wonder if I think he'll ask Ovechkin, because he's earned that autonomy to kind of say, okay, hey, you want to sit out these next couple of games if we clinch everything. So let me just see what he does in these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's a great important element too that not too many people are considering, but we'll have to watch out for that situation there. All right, LaKeena, we're going back to the NCAA tournament now. For the women's side, I got a chance to check out a few minutes of it last night. As we said before, with our good friend, the sports auntie, Miss McGee Hendricks, a friend of the show from Yahoo Sports, who covers women's sports for that great site. We talked about this with her, and I saw some of the pairings last night. It's definitely people were worried about, well, people pay attention to women's basketball now that Caitlin Clark's in the WNBA. Looks like people have, and as we said with Maggie last week, there's about good 4 or 5 teams that can win that title. South Carolina, they're going to have a tough challenge on their hands again this year. I don't know if you saw that shirt. I forgot what it said. Kiss the ring or something like that. Someone can correct me in the comments section, but I thought it was an interesting shirt. But of course, you have UCLA, of course, Paige Beckers, aka Paige Buckets, with UConn. My girl Juju Watkins and Michael Jordan of college basketball right now at USC. Of course, you have Lauren Betts. She's a beast, folks, at USC. So you got a good 4 or 5, 6 teams that can win it all. South Carolina, it's not going to be an easy road for them.
Yeah, they probably got the toughest road, I think, out of all the number 1 seeds. They got to play either Utah or Indiana. That's Indiana. The Indiana squad is really solid. You got Maryland. Brenda Free is always she always has her girls ready. They have a national championship from years ago in their arsenal there. North Carolina, Vanderbilt, Duke. Duke could be perhaps maybe a sleeper coming out of that region too. So yeah, they probably got the toughest road. Now, Illinois on the women's side, they're going for the second straight year. Second time in the last 3 years. They face Creighton, and of course they're the same region with Texas. Should they win that game? Tennessee, could they make some noise? I know they struggled a little bit the last few weeks. Could they make some noise? Sure, they can. TCU, of course, they won the Big 12. They could perhaps maybe make some noise as well. Of course, you can't forget UConn. Kentucky might give USC fits in that region. But I really don't see anybody from that region giving Juju Watkins USC a hard time in the Spokane region. Don't ask me why they do the whole region thing. I don't know why. They've been doing that for the last few years. I don't know why they do that, but I digress there. UCLA, I can see Baylor perhaps maybe giving them a hard time. Maybe LSU, of course, with Miss Kim Mulkey. Michigan State, NC State could perhaps maybe give them some fits as well. But I think it's setting up for perhaps maybe get a clash from USC. UCLA could face each other again. I don't know, but you never know. So, but
that would be great.
Yeah, that would be good for women's hoops. But yeah, that's gonna be interesting to see what happens in that matchup in that region.
Because remember last year we got the Iowa LSU regional final last year. And I enjoyed every minute of that game. Of course, it was Angel Reese for LSU against Caitlin Clark of Iowa. And I know that was the highest rated game in ESPN history as far as women's college basketball concerned. Then, of course, you had Juju Watkins and Paige Beckers in that other regional final last year. So that was the most historic day in women's college basketball for that network. And if they can get anything like that again this year, ESPN will be even more happy.
Of course, you can watch those games on the ESPN family networks, ESPN, ESPN2, ESPNU. All the games will be screened on ESPN Plus. So I know they're hyping out.
Are any games going to be on ABC as well? I think
they might be. I think they are. I don't think they've released the schedule, TV schedule yet. Okay. Well, no, I don't see. I don't think not till the regional final. I think for ABC. Like right now, it's going to be on ESPN, ESPN2, and ESPN News. I think.
Yeah, it'll be great to put a couple of those games on ABC. Just saying, so to get more viewership. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think the USC game is going to be on the USC Greensboro game is going to be on ABC, I believe, on Saturday. So yeah, so there will be a couple of games on ABC. So yeah, we'll see Juju Watkins on Friday, folks. So Saturday I should say, the 22nd. Yeah, so that game will be on ABC. So you guys will be able to see Juju Watkins put on a show against Greensboro. There. So yeah, you will see a couple of them, but yeah, I think down the line you'll see some more games. I know the UConn, Paige Beckers and UConn, that's also going to be on ABC. Yeah, it's going to be regionalized, so that'll be interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, I think a couple games will be on ABC in those early rounds.
I know they don't want to go against CBS. I'm talking about ABC, but to get a few eyeballs watching your games like yours truly, you have to put a couple of games, at least your marquee teams on broadcast linear television. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully the ladies tournament will live up to the hype like it did a year ago. Like I said, the ghost of Caitlin Clark is not there anymore. So as we mentioned, you got a crop of new young stars, and then hopefully we'll see some exciting basketball. I think we will from the women's side. We already talked about the men, but hopefully we get to see some better excitement from the women's tournament. I think we will.
All right, now the NIT, they released their the other tournament, but yeah, we got a couple local teams that'll be participating in that tournament. You got Bradley, they'll be facing North Alabama. That's going to be on ESPN Plus Wednesday at 7:00 our time and such. And also Loyola will also be going to the NIT. They're in the San Francisco region. San Francisco, the top team in that region. Loyola, they'll face San Jose State at 11:00. They're gonna be playing in San Jose. That'll be on ESPN2 also on Wednesday at 10:00. So a little late basketball to kind of like get you guys excitement ready for the tournament coming up. Because I think there was a mix up with that Bradley game. Because I think they thought that they were gonna face North Alabama. They thought that they were gonna get the home court, but I guess there was a mix up there and they couldn't do it. So Bradley is gonna be in Peoria. So I'm sure the folks there are gonna be happy to get another extra home game. They'll also be on ESPN Plus. So that'll be interesting there. SMU is one of the top seeds in that region as well in Dallas. And also DePaul's going to be doing some postseason play here. Now, this is only the second year they've done this, but it's college basketball crown tournament. Now, For those of you who don't know what that is, these are good. There's going to be 16 teams playing in Vegas, and they're all going to be vying for. I guess they're going to win some money too. The game. Those games don't start till near the end of the month, the 31st. Will be on the games will be live on FS1 and on the big Fox network. Some of the other teams, DePaul, they'll be facing Cincinnati. Some of the other teams that will be participating in this game, Villanova, who they don't have a coach right now, so they fired Kyle Neptune. So they're going to be facing with an interim. I guess it'll be his audition. USC will also be playing that tournament. They'll play Tulane. Oregon State and UCF, Johnny Dawkins will be taking his team to Vegas. Utah will be the number 1 seed there in that one. You got George Washington and Boise State, who got left out of the tournament thanks to Colorado State. Bobby Hurley and his Arizona State Sun Devils will face Nebraska, Fred Hoiberg and his guys in that region. That'll be on the 31st. And, of course, you got Georgetown and Wazoo, Washington State, face each other. So, the basketball crown, the brand new tournament, that'll be, like I said, it'll be on March 31st on from April 6th on FS1 and the big Fox network.
Yeah, going back to the NCAA women's tournament, LaKeena, I just looked at that schedule. You are correct. At high noon on Saturday, we'll have Arkansas State and UConn, followed by USC and UNC Greensboro at 2 o'clock. Both games can be seen on ABC. So yours surely will definitely be flipping back and forth between CBS and ABC. So great job by putting the 2 of the top 5 women's college basketball players in the country on free TV.
And also, too, shout out to our buddy Jay Hood, friend of the show. This will make him happy. The women's the WNIT tournament, of course, that's what they call the women's version of the NIT. That'll feature UIC. They're going to be going for the first time ever. This is going to be the first time they're going to be playing any kind of postseason tournament. So that's going to be interesting there with that matchup. But yeah, I think if you get a chance to watch free basketball, I know people get a little deterred by not getting to the tournament, but you get a chance to play and watch, get a chance to play even more matchups. So I think this is not a bad thing. Especially it's a good thing. This is a good thing for the program too, to go into that next step.
Yep. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid LaKeena here with you, winding down the home stretch of this Monday extravaganza of the program. Anything else, LaKeena, before we close it out with Old School TV Monday?
How do you feel about Sean Burke getting the nod for opening day for the White Sox? I'm sure you probably were like, who? I know Christine felt the same way. Like, did Will Venables just put names in the hat and say, oh, okay, I got Burke. Okay, Sean Burke, you're starting in a couple of weeks.
Nice video if you caught that moment between him and Will Venable on social media over the weekend. Nice moment, but I know Sean Burke pitched well last year coming out of the bullpen. I know he's been doing very well in spring training, but okay. I thought it would have been Jonathan Gannon. I know Drew Thorpe is still battling back from his elbow injury. We'll see him hopefully later on this season. Or some people would have thought Martin Perez, but okay, Sean
That's
Burke.
what I thought too.
Yeah, so Perez was number 1, followed by Jonathan Cannon, but Will Venable decided to go on Sean Burke. Okay, anything better than last year losing 1-0 to the Tigers? I'm down with that. You just need some offense, please. Please.
Oh gosh, that'll be interesting there. Yeah, I thought it was going to be him or Gannon. I thought it was one of those two guys, but he went with Burke again. Okay, I guess. All right. All right, Sid. Oh yes. Okay, Sid. Anything else before we go to Old School TV Monday on your front?
No, let's kick it with Old School. End it on a high note on Old School TV Monday. This will definitely have a theme to it, especially if you're a sports fan. LaKeena, let's take it back to 1989, 1988, Saturday afternoon. For yours truly, mom was out. Yours truly had the chance to watch her cable TV, flipping through BET, The Box, of course, WGN After Soul Train. You turned on the MTV. Where were you watching late Saturday afternoon? Remote Control. That's right. Remote Control was an American TV game show that ran on MTV for 5 seasons from 1987 until 1990. It was MTV's first original non-musical program and first game show. A concurrent syndicated version of the series ran during the 1989-90 season and was distributed by Viacom. 3 contestants answered trivia questions on movies, music, and television, many of which were presented in skit format. The series was created and developed by producers Joe Davola and Michael Duggan. It was written by Michael Armstrong. He was the head writer for seasons 2 and 3. Desmond Delvin, Emily Dottie, and Michael Dugan, head writer in season 1. Lee Frank, Bob Giordano, Phil Goring, Keith Kozarik, and also Chris Cressy. He was the head writer for the last 2 seasons, 4 and 5. Dennis Leary, Andrew Price, Colin Quinn, SNL alum, Ned Rice, Richard G. Rosner, and Adam Sandler, another SNL alum. Paul Smith and John Ten Essek. It was directed by Dana Calderwood, Scott Fishman, and Milt Ledge. And the remote control was hosted by Ken Orber, featured Colin Quinn as the announcer / sidekick. Quinn hosted the final episodes as Orber was away filming the short-lived series Parenthood.
Yes.
And Kerry Warner was provided the music and was the host for seasons 2 and 3. Alicia Coppola in season 4, and Susan Ashley in season 5 were the hostess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised you haven't done this show already, Sid, because it was one
Me
of my.
too.
It was one of the first shows that I watched when we first got cable. I didn't get cable till late '89 or 1990, early '90s. So I did the antenna. I did see some of the early versions of the show because of course I got the antenna. I got some of the cable channels, and MTV was one of them. Like I said, it was very cool. It was educational, but it was also fun with all the cool skits and stuff. Of course, Colin Quinn before Saturday Night Live. I think he was doing Saturday Night Live in the last couple of years of that show at the same time. I think he was doing it, both because it was such a short season for the remote control. Of course, Adam Sandler before he went to SNL. I think he went to SNL like right after the show ended. Dennis Leary, of course, he became a household name with this show, and he wrote some of the skits too. I remember he always says all the time in his podcast that he says it's one of his best times. Of course, he has had a great career since, but this is like one of his favorite because he loved all the people that worked because they all had the same goal. Of course, Rory has been on various television shows, a lot of episodic stuff. I think she's retired now from acting, but yeah, I think it was one of those shows where you learned something, but it was funny too, and it was your typical game show. Like it was sort of like Let's Make Deal without the costume. So it was kind of like the cool, hipper, version of the game shows from back in those days.
Yep, and the premise of the show was the theme song explained that Orber was addicted to television growing up and desperately wanted to become a game show host. To make his dream come true, he set up the basement of his childhood home as a television studio. And that's what the show set looked like. It looked like you was watching TV in your basement. He had all the TVs, the video games. You had the remote control lazy boys going around there. So that set was awesome. And the feel of the show was awesome. And I saw a clip the other day on Instagram. I forgot they had a celebrity edition. I forgot who the other 2 celebrities were, but the one that I did, the one that I did recognize was LL Cool J, and he was coming up as a big name in hip hop at that time.
Yeah, that was like I think that was like right before his first album came out. So before he really
that was right. No, it was doing his second album.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh God, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's so much time has passed. Like I forgot, but yeah, I forgot. But yeah, I think he lost to. I forgot who beat him, but I think he made it to the second round. But of course, unfortunately he lost. But yeah, that was like the only time. I'm surprised they didn't do more of those because I think that would have kept the show going. I think had they done more celebrity versions, but I digress. Like Ken Ober, who I think was really cool. Sadly, he passed away in 2009. So that was a bummer when I heard that news. And I remember he said he grew up idolizing your Bob Barkers, your Bob Eubanks, and Monty Hall. I think that was how he kind of wanted to do like his style, but he kind of wanted to do a fusion of the two, and he did just that. So I'm glad he was able to live his dream. God rest his soul. Yeah, I think it was sort of one of those cool game shows that it kind of really took like the mind of like a TV fanatic and it just made it into a game show. It's basically like you said, that's basically what it was basically.
Yeah. And also too, one last fun fact before we close out, it was a video game that was released in 1989. I remember playing this one on old school Nintendo called MTV's Remote Control.
Oh, you know what? I never got that game though. I forgot.
It was fun. It was fun. Yep, they had a video game on old school Nintendo.
Oh, you know what? Did I ever? I don't think I played that. I think I just because every time I would try to get it, they ran out. So I
Blockbuster Video, right?
Yes. They were on always try to rent that, but it'd be gone. So I'm just like, oh, come on, fake kids. Yeah, because it was actually uber popular back then, folks. But
yes.
But yeah, it was it was a great, like I said, it was a great trivia game. Kind of kicked us. I know a lot of the episodes are on YouTube, so if you don't know what we're talking about, all you folks under 30. A lot of the episodes are on YouTube, so you guys want to check that out. They're cool nostalgia, kind of like a who's who before they became big stars. Like your Adam Sandler's and your Dennis Leary. So and Colin Quinn too. I know he still does a lot of TV writing and such still.
Real quick, I said this was the last note. Here's the last note. I got the list of that celebrity edition of Remote Control. LL Cool J, as I mentioned, Downtown Julie Brown, and Weird Al Yankovic. He ended up winning that.
He won it.
That episode.
Yeah, he won it. He won. I think he beat LL in that last round. I remember Julie Brown Dr. Julie Brown was very upset when she lost. So she doesn't take losing very well. But yeah, I remember Weird Al. Yeah, he did win. He's actually pretty smart too. So yeah, that was a good. Like I said, I think that's on YouTube too. I think that's Celebrity Edition. But yeah, I wish they had done more because I think that would have kept the show going. I think, but
yeah. And another fun fact, I keep saying this is the last one. This is definitely the last one. ESPN anchor now for the hockey coverage, John Buccigross appeared on the show as a regular contestant way back when.
I think I might have seen him there too. I think he had a lot more hair back then. I think so.
Yeah.
I do remember seeing him. I think he was on there for like 5-6 days. I think he was actually really good on the show. So, but I'm sure his episodes are on now. I'm surprised no one. I'm sure they've teased him out on ESPN. But yeah, that was a really kind of before they were stars moment. But yeah, nice call to on the remote control. I'm surprised we haven't done that yet.
Yeah, we'll definitely be doing that on we'll definitely be doing that on Thursday and throughout the weekend with the March Madness, both the women's and the men. So the remote controls, and now with the streaming, closing different windows and watching different games.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll definitely be using those devices coming up, especially us as sports fans. So for Old School TV Monday, we salute MTV's 1980s first ever game show for that network, Remote Control. LaKeena, take us home.
You follow McGee on the Twitter, executes ring in the IG.
You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80, that's SIDKID80. SIDKID80. Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in the living color every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And you can catch replays of our show, including our bracket special from last night. And Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellas, What's Up Cousin, a whole lot more. Of course, you can catch the replays of Sports Zone of all the shows and great content on Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels.
And we will provide.
And also, of course, congrats to Rory McIlroy for winning his second Players' Championship. He actually joins a good list that includes Tiger and Jack Nicklaus as the only players to win multiple majors, PGA Tour events, and also now multiple Players' Championship. He won that early this morning down at TPC Sawgrass. So shout out to Rory. Hopefully he can win the Masters next month and complete the Grand Slam finally. We'll see.
And we'd like to thank Evan Altman from CubsInsider.com for joining us today, previewing the 2025 Chicago Cubs as they'll kick off their season tomorrow morning at 5:10 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch that game on Fox nationally, and you can watch that game locally in Chicago if you have this channel on Marquee Sports Network. For those of you out there in LA, you can watch it locally on Spectrum Sportsnet. So a lot of avenues to watch the Cubs and Dodgers season opener from Japan.
Take a nap, folks. You guys better take a nap now if you're going to be up at 5 o'clock watching watching those games against the Dodgers coming up. But yeah, so enjoy that. Enjoy all the basketball coming up, both pro and college. so much basketball and such, soccer, everything else in between, and enjoy the weird weather. Of course, try to address accordingly. I know it's a little weird for this time of year, especially here in this region, but just be safe out there and be good to each other. For Sid, I'm LaKeena. This has been Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. We'll see you guys Friday.
Go Dodgers!
Oh gosh, oh Lord. Go Cubs, go!